Digital photography is a form of photography that uses cameras containing arrays of electronic photodetectors to capture images focused by a lens, as opposed to an exposure on photographic film. The captured images are digitized and stored as a computer file ready for further digital processing, viewing, digital publishing or printing. Until the advent of such technology, photographs were made by exposing light-sensitive photographic film and paper, which were processed in liquid chemical solutions to develop and stabilize the image. Digital photography is one of several forms of digital imaging. Digital images are also created by non-photographic equipment such as computer tomography scanners and radio telescopes. Digital images can also be made by scanning other printed photographic images or negatives. The first consumer digital cameras were marketed in the late 1990s. Professionals gravitated to digital slowly, and were won over when the professional work required using digital files to fulfill the demands of employers and/or clients, for faster turnaround than conventional methods would allow. Starting around 2007, digital cameras were incorporated in cell phones, and in the following years, cell phone cameras became widespread, particularly due to their connectivity to social media websites and email. Since 2010, the digital point-and-shoot and DSLR formats have also seen competition from the mirrorless digital camera format, which typically provides better image quality than the point-and-shoot or cell phone formats but comes in a smaller size and shape than the typical DSLR. Many mirrorless cameras accept interchangeable lenses and have advanced features through an electronic viewfinder, which replaces the through-the-lens finder image of the SLR format. The digital camera history: the first flyby spacecraft image of Mars was taken from Mariner 4 on July 15, 1965, with a camera system designed by NASA, JPL. It used a video camera tube followed by a digitizer, rather than a mosaic of solid-state sensor elements. So it was not what we usually define as a digital camera, but it produced a digital image that was stored on tape for later slow transmission back to Earth. The first recorded attempt at building a digital camera was in 1975 by Stephen Sasson, an engineer at Eastman Kodak. It used the then-new solid-state CCD image sensor chips developed by Fairchild Semiconductor in 1973. The camera weighed 8 pounds, recorded black and white images to a cassette tape, had a resolution of 0.01 megapixels, and took 23 seconds to capture its first image in December 1975. The prototype camera was a technical exercise, not intended for production. The first true digital camera that recorded images as a computerized file was likely the Fuji DS1P of 1988, which recorded to a 16 megabytes internal memory card that used a battery to keep the data in memory. This camera was never marketed internationally, and has not been confirmed to have shipped even in Japan. The first commercially available digital camera was the 1990 D-Cam Model 1. It also sold as the Logitech Photoman. It used a CCD image sensor, stored pictures digitally, and connected directly to a computer for downloading images. Image sensors read the intensity of light, and digital memory devices store the digital image information as RGB color space or as raw data. The two main types of sensors are charge-coupled devices, in which the photo charge is shifted to a central charge-to-voltage converter, and CMOS or active pixel sensors. Multifunctionality and connectivity except for some linear array type of cameras at the highest end and simple webcams at the lowest end. A digital memory device is used for storing images, which may be transferred to a computer later. Digital cameras can take pictures, and may also record sound and video. Some can be used as webcams, some can use the PictBridge standard to connect to a printer without using a computer, and some can display pictures directly on a television set. Similarly, many camcorders can take still photographs. and store them on videotape or on flash memory cards with the same functionality as digital cameras. Performance metrics. The quality of a digital image is a composite of various factors, many of which are similar to those of film cameras. Pixel count is only one of the major factors, though it is the most heavily marketed figure of merit. Digital camera manufacturers advertise this figure because consumers can use it to easily compare camera capabilities. It is not, however, the major factor in evaluating a digital camera for most applications. The processing system inside the camera that turns the raw data into a color-balanced and pleasing photograph is usually more critical, which is why some 4+ megapixel cameras perform better than higher-end cameras. Resolution in pixels is not the only measure of image quality. A larger sensor with the same number of pixels generally produces a better image than a smaller one. One of the most important differences is an improvement in image noise. This is one of the advantages of digital SLR cameras, which have larger sensors than simpler cameras of the same resolution. Lens quality, resolution, distortion, dispersion, capture medium, CMOS, CCD, negative film, reversal film, etc. Capture format, pixel count, digital file type, film format, processing, digital and/or chemical processing of negative and print. Pixel counts the number of pixels n for a given maximum resolution is the product n equals w times h. This yields e.g. 1.92 megapixels for an image of 1600 times 1200. The majority of compact as well as some DSLR cameras have a 4:3 aspect ratio, i.e., with h equals 4/3. According to Digital Photography Review, the 4:3 ratio is because computer monitors a 4:3 ratio, old CCDs always had a 4:3 ratio, and thus digital cameras inherited this aspect ratio. The pixel count quoted by manufacturers can be misleading as it may not be the number of full-color pixels. For cameras using single-chip image sensors, the number claimed is the total number of single-color sensitive photo sensors, whether they have different locations in the plane, as with the biosensor, or in stacks of 3 co-located photosensors as in the Favon X3 sensor. However, the images have different numbers of RGB pixels. Biosensor cameras produce as many RGB pixels as photosensors via demosaicing, while Favon sensors produce uninterpolated image files with 1/3 as many RGB pixels as photosensors. Comparisons of megapixel ratings of these two types of sensors are sometimes a subject of dispute. The relative increase in detail resulting from an increase in resolution is better compared by looking at the number of pixels across the picture, rather than the total number of pixels in the picture area. For example, a sensor of 2560 × 1600 sensor elements is described as 4 megapixels. Increasing to 3200 × 2048 increases the pixels in the picture to 6,553,600, a factor of 1.6. But the pixels per centimeter in the picture increases by only 1.25 times. A measure of the comparative increase in linear resolution is the square root of the increase in area resolution, i.e., megapixels in the entire image. Dynamic range. Practical imaging systems, both digital and film, have a limited dynamic range. The range of luminosity that can be reproduced accurately. Highlights of the subjects that are too bright are rendered as white, with no detail. Shadows that are too dark are rendered as black. The loss of detail is not abrupt with film, or in dark shadows with digital sensors. Some detail is retained as brightness moves out of the dynamic range. Highlight burnout of digital sensors, however, can be abrupt, and highlight detail may be lost. And as the sensor elements for different colors saturate in turn, there can be gross hue or saturation shift in burnt-out highlights. Others compensate for the total contrast of a scene by selectively exposing darker pixels longer. A third technique is used by Fujifilm in its FinePix S3 Pro Digital SLR. The image sensor contains additional photodiodes of lower sensitivity than the main ones. These retain detail in parts of the image too bright for the main sensor. High dynamic range imaging addresses this problem by increasing the dynamic range of images by either increasing the dynamic range of the image sensor or by using exposure bracketing and post-processing the separate images to create a single image with a higher dynamic range. HDR images curtail burnouts and blackouts. Storage. Many camera phones and most digital cameras use memory cards having flash memory to store image data. The majority of cards for separate cameras are SD format. Many are compact flash and the other formats are rare. XQD card format was the last new form of card, targeted at high-definition camcorders and high-resolution digital photo cameras. Most modern digital cameras also use internal memory for a limited capacity for pictures that can be transferred to or from the card or through the camera's connections, even without a memory card inserted into the camera. Memory cards can hold vast numbers of photos, requiring attention only when the memory card is full. For most users, this means hundreds of quality photos stored on the same memory card. Images may be transferred to other media for archival or personal use. Cards with high speed and capacity are suited to video and burst mode. Market impact. In late 2002, 2-megapixel cameras were available in the United States for less than $100, with some 1-megapixel cameras for under $60. At the same time, many discount stores with photolabs introduced a digital front end, allowing consumers to obtain true chemical prints in an hour. These prices were similar to those of prints made from film negatives. However, because digital images have a different aspect ratio than 35mm film images, people have started to realize that 4x6-inch prints crop some of the image off the print. Some photo finishes have started offering prints with the same aspect ratio as the digital camera's record. In July 2003, digital cameras entered the disposable camera market with the release of the Ritz Dakota Digital, a 1.2-MEG API XEL CMOS-based digital camera costing only $11. Following the familiar single-use concept long in use with film cameras, Ritz intended the Dakota Digital for single use. When the pre-programmed 25-picture limit is reached, the camera is returned to the store, and the consumer receives back prints and a CD-ROM with their photos. The camera is then refurbished and resold. Since the introduction of the Dakota Digital, a number of similar single-use digital cameras have appeared. Most single-use digital cameras are nearly identical to the original Dakota Digital in specifications and function, though a few include superior specifications and more advanced functions. Most, if not all these single-use digital cameras cost less than $20, not including processing. However, the huge demand for complex digital cameras at competitive prices has often caused manufacturing shortcuts, evidenced by a large increase in customer complaints over camera malfunctions, high parts prices, and short service life. Some digital cameras offer only a 90-day warranty. Since 2003, digital cameras have outsold film cameras. Prices of 35mm compact cameras have dropped with manufacturers further outsourcing to countries such as China. Kodak announced in January 2004 that they would no longer sell Kodak-branded film cameras in the developed world. In January 2006, Nikon followed suit and announced they would stop production of all but two models of their film cameras. They will continue to produce the low-end Nikon FM10, and the high-end Nikon F6. In the same month, Konica Minolta announced it was pulling out of the camera business altogether. The price of 35mm and APS compact cameras have dropped. probably due to direct competition from digital and the resulting growth of the offer of second-hand film cameras. Pentax have reduced production of film cameras but not halted it. The technology has improved so rapidly that one of Kodak's film cameras was discontinued before it was awarded a Camera of the Year award later in the year. The decline in film camera sales has also led to a decline in purchases of film for such cameras. In November 2004, a German division of Agfa split off. Within 6 months it filed for bankruptcy. Konica Minolta Photo Imaging, Inc. ended production of color film and paper worldwide by March 31, 2007. In addition, by 2005, Kodak employed less than a third of the employees it had 20 years earlier. It is not known if these job losses in the film industry have been offset in the digital image industry. Digital cameras have decimated the film photography industry through declining use of the expensive film rolls and development chemicals previously required to develop the photos. This has had a dramatic effect on companies such as Fuji, Kodak, and Agfa. Many stores that formerly offered photo finishing services or sold film no longer do, or have seen a tremendous decline. In 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy after struggling to adapt to the changing industry. In addition, digital photography has resulted in some positive market impacts as well. The increasing popularity of products such as digital photo frames and canvas prints is a direct result of the increasing popularity of digital photography. Digital camera sales peaked in March 2012, averaging about 11 million units a month, but sales have declined significantly ever since. By March 2014, about 3 million were purchased each month, about 30% of the peak sales total. The decline may have bottomed out, with sales average hovering around 3 million a month. The main competitor is smartphones, most of which have built-in digital cameras, which routinely get better. They also offer the ability to record videos. Social impact. Until the advent of the digital camera, amateur photographers could either buy print or slide film for their cameras. Slides could be developed and shown to an audience using a slide projector. Digital photography revolutionized the industry by eliminating the delay and cost. The ease of viewing, transferring and editing allowed consumers to manage their digital photos with ordinary home computers rather than specialized equipment. Camera phones, being the majority of cameras, have arguably the largest impact. The user can set their smartphones to upload their products to the internet, preserving them even if the camera is destroyed or the image is deleted. Some high-street photography shops have self-service kiosks that allow images to be printed directly from smartphones via Bluetooth technology. Archivists and historians have noticed the transitory nature of digital media. Unlike film and print, which are tangible and immediately accessible to a person, digital image storage is ever-changing, with old media and decoding software becoming obsolete or inaccessible by new technologies. Historians are concerned that we are creating a historical void where information and details about an era would have been lost within either failed or inaccessible digital media. They recommend that professional and amateur users develop strategies for digital preservation by migrating stored digital images from old technologies to new. Scrapbookers who may have used film for creating artistic and personal memoirs may need to modify their approach to digital photo books to personalize them and retain the special qualities of traditional photo albums. The web has been a popular medium for storing and sharing photos ever since the first photograph was published on the web by Tim Berners-Lee in 1992. Today, photo sharing sites such as Flick, Picasa, and PhotoBucket, as well as social websites, are used by millions of people to share their pictures. Recent research and innovation. Research and development continues to refine the lighting, optics, sensors, processing, storage, display, and software used in digital photography. Here are a few examples. 3D models can be created from collections of normal images. The resulting scene can be viewed from novel viewpoints, but creating the model is very computationally intensive. An example is Microsoft's photosynth, which provides some models of famous places as examples. Panoramic photographs can be created directly in camera without the need for any external processing. Some cameras feature a 3D panorama capability, combining shots taken with a single lens from different angles to create a sense of depth. High dynamic range cameras and displays are commercially available. Sensors with dynamic range in excess of 1 million to 1 are in development, and software is also available to combine multiple non-HDR images into an HDR image. Motion blur can be dramatically removed by a flutter shutter. It is not yet commercially available. Advanced bokeh techniques use a hardware system of two sensors, one to take the photo as usual while the other records depth information. Bokeh effect and refocusing can then be applied to an image after the photo is taken. In advanced camera or camcorders, manipulating the sensitivity of the sensor, not one, but two or more neutral density filters are available. An object's specular reflection can be captured using computer-controlled lights and sensors. This is needed to create attractive images of oil paintings, for instance. It is not yet commercially available, but some museums are starting to use it. Dust reduction systems help keep dust off of image sensors. Originally introduced only by a few cameras like Olympus DSLRs, have now become standard in most models and brands of detachable lens camera, except the low-end, cheap ones. Other areas of progress include improved sensors, more powerful software, advanced camera processors, enlarged gamut displays, built-in GPS and Wi-Fi, and computer-controlled lighting.